Everybody, welcome back. This video we're looking at the NBA slate for Thursday. Have a nice 6-game slate tonight, so perfect size slate. Let's get right into it. Looking back at yesterday was a decent night on DraftKings. Hit a 301.75. Sabonis was great. A pretty low ownership, dropping a triple-double, 60 plus. Harden was a pretty much a lock once Irving was ruled out, so hopefully you guys all played him. And let's get started with the picks here. So as always, appreciate you guys to the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow on Twitter for updates, check out the website, links in the description, and let's get started. So looking at the point guard options here, we have a couple at the top, a couple of high-scoring games that you want to target. Definitely going to be Minnesota-Phoenix. It's going to be one of those games. The Pelicans-Portland. Blazers going right back at it after they played last game. Those are the two big games tonight to target. Also, you have like the Jazz are a bit shorthanded. They're missing Conley, so a little bit shorthanded against the Wizards. At least the Jazz personally are a team to target. And then the Knicks could be really shorthanded if Quickly isn't able to play because Payne is doubtful, and we'll see Tibbs play like Burks at point guard, which would be nice. So those are the main ones, and then depending on like Capella news, we can look to Gallo and or Collins on the Atlanta side, and then on the OKC side, after that monster game for Moses Brown, he's still 4,300. Al Horford is back after he rested last game, so we'll see if they decide to still keep Moses Brown in the starting lineup. That would definitely make him playable at 4,300. But going back to point guard options, Lillard, after his monster fourth quarter, is up to 11,000. Put up 75, had one of his best games of the season, and of course, that was when McCollum was back. I think you could go to him if you wanted to, just because there's not a lot of studs besides like him at the top and like LeBron. And then I don't want to play Westbrook against the Jazz. So you definitely could. I personally don't want to, just based on the price tag. LeBron is 10-7 against Charlotte. He also looks like a guy that you can plug in if you wanted to spend up for one of those two studs. If I had to pick between LeBron and Lillard, I might as well just go with Lillard at 11,000. But both, I don't think I'll get to either one right now. Have some nice value plays that are cheaper. We have SGA coming off of a dud, but is still a spot where he can go off against Atlanta. Only had 1 rebound, 1 assist, and he had 8 turnovers. A really outlier game in that department. Expecting a bounce back. It's a pretty favorable matchup against Atlanta. Should be a competitive game. So don't mind going to him. And then the 7K range is pretty nice. You have Mitchell at 87. If you wanted to play him without Conley, you know he's going to take on a little bit more of the point guard duties. I don't really want to go to LaMelo against the Lakers. I'd rather go to Chris Paul at 7,700. Great matchup for the Suns. They have been crushing. Hopefully the Timberwolves are able to stay in this game long enough to where we get full minutes out of Paul. But if that does happen, I expect a big game out of him. A couple of games hasn't had to play too many minutes. 28 in a 23-point win against Memphis. Then he played 34. That's pretty much where he's been playing. He shot the ball awful in that game. Still put up 36. He's been a minute since he's put up like 50 or high 40s. I think this is one of those spots where you can just play him with some confidence. This is such a good spot against Minnesota with the Suns having one of the highest totals on the slate. It's really Paul and Booker that lead the show. In Phoenix, so expecting Chris Paul to go out there and drop hopefully a double-double tonight and put up at least 45 DraftKings points. McCollum is 7,400. He's going to be limited probably for a couple games at least, so we'll see until they remove some of those restrictions. I don't think I want to play him. And then looking at the low end of the 6K range, you have Quickly if he does play. 63, his price tag is rising, but if he plays and with Payne doubtful if he's out, then he looks all right at the price point. You could maybe go Shooter over Quickly if you want it to be a little bit different. Then you have Ricky Rubio finally had a monster game. You've been playing him quite a bit. Didn't play him against the Lakers, but he's been pretty consistent without McLaughlin backing him up. He's getting those minutes and only played 28, but he still put up 48 DraftKings points. Started the game really hot. He's actually making his shots. So anytime you get Rubio hitting his shots, you know he's going to be out. You know he's going to have the potential for a monster game just with the assists and the usage that's still going to be there. So I like Rubio. 58, I like him way more than MCW, than Gary Trent. I like him more than Jalen Noel at 5,200. And then for value, if there is no Teo Maledon, you could look to Ty Jerome, who could start in his place. And then you have Graham is really cheap, 4,200. He's coming off the bench now, but he could be worth it for some tournaments. And then like Kira Lewis Jr. minutes are kind of been up and down for him. He only played 9 minutes, but before that he played 27, 23, 22. So a really risky player. because the minutes might not be there, but those are the kind of plays you want to target in tournaments, especially in those like big 150 max contests. So that's the quick rundown on point guard. Looking at Chris Paul, I think he's in play at 7,700. Shooting guard Bradley Beal's price tag is pretty favorable. One of the cheaper price tags he's been all season. The matchup is definitely not favorable against the Jazz. So based on that reason, I think I'll look elsewhere, but he still gives you upside any given night. I like SGA. I like Donovan Mitchell. I'll probably go Mitchell over SGA just without Conley. Edwards continues to be playing a lot better than he started the season with, making his shots recently, getting a ton of usage, and the minutes are going to be there every single game until Beasley's back. Even with Beasley back, he's still going to get those minutes, but just extra minutes with some extra usage to go around. You know he's going to shoot 20 plus times, and those are the kind of plays I'm looking at. So I really don't mind going to Edwards at all at 7,100. And then if the Magic get like Fournier, Aaron Gordon back, then don't think you have to go crazy with them. Both Ross and Fournier questionable, so we'll see if they play. You could play quickly at shooting guard. Anytime you can play a point guard at shooting guard, that would be nice. And then you have Kevin Huerter if they're still without a couple of pieces, well, mainly Capella, then he might be a decent value option. But really, if Capella's out, I'm looking at Gallo and I'm looking at John Collins from the Atlanta side. And then for value, it's Devontae Graham at 4,200. We have Joe Ingles at 5,200. He's most likely going to jump into the starting lineup. He's been starting every game that Conley's missed when he missed some time with his hamstring injury. So I really like him at 5,200. Going to take on more ball handling duties, going to get more minutes, more usage, and anytime you take one of these core pieces of the Jazz out, the rest of the guys just benefit, especially Ingles when you take out Conley, and especially Donovan Mitchell. Moving on, small forward. At the top end, it's LeBron. I like Brandon Ingram, 8,100. The matchup is great against Portland, coming off of a tough loss. I mean, Ingram had the chance to ice it and miss 2 free throws at the end of the game. Tough loss because, nobody expected them to lose that game. And he's playing about 36, 37 minutes in close games. Expect this one to be probably close once again. On a 6-game slate, he looks to be one of the top-end guys to pay up for at small forward. I like Edwards a lot at 7,100. And then you have RJ Barrett at 64, Gallo if there is no Capella. Barrett and Gallo are great mid-range options, especially Barrett right now. Gallo could be one if we get the Capella news. But Nick's shorthanded right now, missing Derrick Rose, missing Peyton. They could be missing quickly tonight. We've seen Barrett just get a ton of minutes since those guys have been out. 36, 35, 41 against Philly. Playing time is there. The production has been there just because they don't have any other guys to go to. If Barrett starts off the game struggling, Tibbs will quickly put in like one of the other guards. You put in Rose in his place or put in Peyton or somebody else. They just don't have that many options right now. He absolutely hates Kevin Knox, so he's not getting playing time. So Barrett is a guy at small forward who's going to get a ton of minutes for the Knicks, and compared to some of the other price tags like Quickly and Randall, I like the price tag on Barrett the most. Gallo looks great, 6,100, assuming Capella's out. Then in the 5K range, it's nothing that I'm going crazy with. Josh Hart is always in play in these type of games where it's going to be high scoring. He's going to get some extra minutes off the bench in some of these spots if the Blazers decide to go small here. So he's a guy that you could look at 5,300. The 4K range, 4,700. Bukoveski coming off of a dud against Chicago is really popular, as he should have been without Al Horford. Just couldn't hit a shot. 2 of 9 from the floor. Probably will still remain in the starting lineup. So when people will jump off of him just based on his performance last game, it's a spot to jump on, I think, at that price tag. And then it's nothing that I'm looking at too heavily. Bullock's going to play a lot of minutes, but he's really just a 3-and-D guy, and then hopefully he can make a lot of shots if we play him. Horton Tucker's been going nuts for the Lakers off the bench. You got to give him some consideration just based on the fact that he has the ability to break the slate just based on his price tag. And then that's mainly it. Like Sweet was active, but he didn't play, so don't know what they're doing with him right now. And then Jake Layman, I think we can do way better for value. And then Bertans still cheap, I think, 37. Tough matchup, but the price tag is getting pretty ridiculous on him. Power forward, love Zion at 89. Randall looks good as well, just with all these injuries, but I might lean to go a little bit cheaper with like Zion. John Collins would be a great play if there's no Capella. Then you have Gallo. You have Covington at 6,100. It looks like a pretty solid option. Just that the minutes are there. He's the guy that gets you blocks and steals. Hopefully, he can hit some threes. And not looking at Roby. Maybe looking at Pokuveski if he starts again. Now, for value, it's pretty much like Bertans at 3,700. That's like the guy that I'm looking at. Knight, if there is no Capella, he's going to see around 20 to 25 minutes off the bench. Derek Jones Jr., 4,000. His playing time is going to diminish a little bit with McCollum back. And then it's Morris at 4,300. Probable like the rest of the Lakers team. Moving on to center. At the top, it's Randall, Vooch, Towns. I like the price tag on Towns a lot, especially if the Magic gets Fournier back and they get Aaron Gordon back. Then Vooch will probably not have to carry as big of a load. Randall gives you a huge ceiling on this type of matchup, and given the fact that they could be really shorthanded. But I like the price tag on Towns a lot against Phoenix. Think he should be able to take it to DeAndre Ayton coming off of a solid game against the Lakers. Hopefully he'll be able to continue that. So he's a guy I'm looking at the top end. For value, it's John Collins at 7,200. Besides, like another guy at the top is Zion, but 7K range, it's John Collins who I'm looking at. 6K range is pretty strong with Montrezl Harrell, who's been doing great things for the Lakers off the bench, seeing high 20s, low 30s in minutes, depending on if the games are close or not. Definitely lost minutes. The last two games was on pace for big performances. Already had big performances in both. But like Harrell at 6,400, I like DeAndre Ayton is only 6,200. Probably deserves some consideration here. Gonna need to play a guy like him against Towns, you would think. They probably don't want to put Sarge on him or Kaminsky or one of those other power forwards. So 6,200 for DeAndre Ayton. Hopefully it's the type of game where he gets at least like 32, 35 minutes, and I think he should have a good game as well. And then if they decide to start Moses Brown again, then he would be a guy I plug in at 4,300. And that's pretty much it. Moving on to guard. Looking at Anthony Edwards, I'll probably plug him in at forward or guard. It doesn't really matter. Still like the price tag, 71. He's been basically hitting value for you every single game recently since he's kind of seen this big uptick in minutes. Staying around 37, 38 minutes in close games. Hopefully they stay in this game. The matchup isn't easy, but just Edwards is going to go out there chucking. You know he's going to shoot at least 20 times. He's done that in almost every game recently this season, and the low end was like 18 against Portland. But ever since the end of February, he's been shooting 20-plus times, 22, 24. Those are the type of guys I want. Gives you big ceilings if they start to hit, like not even 50%, but if he has like if he gets hot and makes like 60% of his shots, he's going to put up like close to 50. And last but not least, it's probably Montrezl Harrell right now at just $6,400. Just a great matchup against Charlotte. Should be able to absolutely dominate in the paint here against Cody Zeller, and then he comes off the bench, so you'll see some minutes with PJ Washington at the 5 and Biyombo at the 5. So hopefully Harrell can take it to those guys. So that's the quick rundown for the DraftKings side. Let's jump over to FanDuel. All right, on FanDuel here, starting off at point guard, it's Damian Lillard at a nice price tag, 10-4. I like him more than Westbrook. Trae Young's been playing awful. He's $8,800, but I just have no confidence in Young. I'd rather go to Chris Paul at $6,900. Great price tag. Great matchup. And Lonzo is in play against Portland. Dennis Schroeder is cheap. Rubio is really cheap, $5,400. So you have your fair share of options here. And then if you wanted to feel going with like Jalen Noel, he looks in play on FanDuel at 46. So probably looking at like Chris Paul at 6,900 right now. Just like the matchup a lot, and I like that price tag. At shooting guard, I like Donovan Mitchell, 83, SGA, 7,900, Edwards, 71. Even Booker's in play. So I probably won't get to Beal or McCollum. I like the cheaper guys, the 4 guys that are cheaper than them. And then I'm looking at probably Jordan Clarkson at only $5,200. But the real cheap end guys are like Bledsoe is 45, Burks is 45 if there is no Quickly tonight. And then it's Joe Ingles is only $4,400. That's a tough price tag to get away from. He starts here as he should in place of Conley against the Wizards. Small forward, it's Ingram at only $7,800, and you have LeBron at 10.8. So I like Ingram saving about $3,000. Then you have Terrence Ross if they're without Fournier, if they're without Gordon, and he plays. He looks good at 5,900. I love Gallo, 57. Barrett looks like one of the guys I'm targeting at 5,900. Then for value, it's Josh Hart, 47. And maybe you can look at like Bogdanovich, but he just hasn't been doing a ton since he's been back. I love Barrett. The minutes are going to be there tonight, at least like high 30s, low 40s. Great matchup against Orlando, and he's been playing a lot better, so hopefully that confidence kind of continues. Power forward, I like the price tag on Julius Randle compared to his DraftKings number, so 9,200 is a lot easier to get to on FanDuel. Position is loaded. You have Randle, Zion, John Collins, the three guys I'm mainly considering at the top, and then for value, you have Pokusevski at $4,300. If you think he'll bounce back, you have maybe Bertans at 41. Then you have Crowder's only $3,800. Sarge is 38. So definitely Sarge and Crowder are pretty good value plays. Both guys get at least like high 20s in minutes or low 20s for Sarge at least. Crowder's only 38. He's been playing 28, 17, 30, 23 minutes, kind of up and down, but definitely gives you at least 6x, if not more, upside. But right now, I'll probably stick to paying up. If there is no Capella, I would definitely plug in John Collins, but I like Zion right now. Actually, I'll probably just plug in Randall at 9,200. And then center options at the top, it's Vooch and Towns. I like Towns 97, assuming that Fournier, Gordon, all those guys play. Then you have DeAndre Ayton at only 6,800, Montrezl Harrell at 67, as two guys that look appealing in the 6K range. And then for value, it's like Cody Zeller, Moses Brown, if any of those guys start. Probably try to get to at least one of these top end, like top guys above 6,500. Right now, plug in DeAndre Ayton against the Timberwolves. We'll see if we can upgrade or go a little bit cheaper, depending on some news we get, but definitely don't mind going to him at all. So that's pretty much it for this one. Thank you guys for watching. Best of luck tonight, and catch you all later.